Hey guys, welcome back to RHR Jen. I'm so glad you're here. Guys, I have such a good show for you today. I'm continuing on my sit down with friend of the show, John Witherspoon. We really are diving deep into the Andrew of it all, the King Charles of it all, Fergie, Meghan and Harry, all that stuff. So I want you to hear my sit down with him, and a huge thank you to John Witherspoon for your time and your thoughtful answers to all of our questions. If you want to further support him, the way you can do that is by following him on Instagram. He's Witherspoon DC on Instagram. So check him out. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate that.
I think he should consider himself very, very fortunate.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the irony is that all these reports have come out that he thinks he's done nothing wrong. Apparently, I've read several stories that said that when the police approached him,
I heard
that his response was, I'm the what was it? I'm the Queen's second son, or something like that. How can you possibly detain me and take me down to the police station? I hear the police station. I mean, I don't know. I've been in police stations, not voluntarily. I've not been in police stations against my will. But most police stations that I've been in are not terribly pleasant places to be, even for the average person.
You wouldn't want to hang out
They
there.
literally, they give you a blanket, they give you a mattress that's about 2 inches thick, and they give you a toilet that is behind a wall. And that's kind of it. I can only imagine that must have been a brain twist for Andrew like nothing else he's ever experienced.
What I thought
people talk about their quarters in the military on board a ship or whatever as well. I didn't have, there was 5 other people bunking in the same room when, one guy snored and one guy, smelled bad and this and that and the other. And it's like, okay, but this is still the military.
Mm-hmm.
That's like a luxury compared to what you get when you're placed into a jail cell of some sort.
True. Yeah, absolutely. Where I thought you were going with that, and I thought you were going to say was that allegedly I'd heard that when the police showed up on his birthday, he thought it was some sort of party or celebration or something like that.
Yeah, a bunch of strippers dressed up in police. Yeah, right. Happy birthday.
Right. He's like, I'm the birthday boy. Yeah.
Right. Well, the funny thing was too, this is one thing that I've also heard is that there were photographers that were hanging around his house.
Mm-hmm.
But on the day they knew it was his birthday, and they thought, well, we'll send a few more people up there with a giant camera with a 3-foot lens on it to see who else might show up. Maybe Fergie will show up. Maybe Beatrice or Eugenie will show up. Uh-huh. We'll all, have a big stakeout and we'll just wait around. And what did they get? Here come the police. 6 police cars. I find it very interesting, by the way, as well, that apparently some of the police went in through the front, but a lot of them also went in through the back. In other words, to plug up all the, potential escape routes.
Absolutely.
Stranger things have happened than for people to, flip out and start, running off into the woods or trying to get out the back door or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. So apparently they were well prepared to deal with whatever came their way. Right. But as I said, it was just apparently a big joke that all these photographers were there. Oh, well, let's see what kind of, if somebody shows up with 100 balloons in the back of a van or something, we'll all get a picture of that. And no, guess what? It's the police. So,
well, can we play a purely hypothetical game for a second and go totally just our own opinions here and say, what if King Charles is better than I realized? And he was like, you know what? Let's do it on his birthday. I didn't think of it. Because the statement that came out from the palace was that King Charles had no knowledge of the police coming the day that they came and all that. Okay, fine. That's their statement. Well, let's play a hypothetical game and say he's the king. So he knew that police would be on his property at a certain day and a certain time. How funny would that be?
Yeah. I don't know. I tend to believe the palace when they say we didn't know anything about this.
Fair enough.
I mean, this is a big deal.
Sure.
And those police officers and the command personnel in the Thames Valley Police, they didn't want anything to go sideways. I guarantee you that.
Oh,
And,
absolutely. Agree.
you know, there's no better way to keep a secret than to keep it to yourself.
True. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that's got to throw a whole level of craziness when you're going on. I mean, it's all unprecedented, right? How many years did you say it had been since a member of a royal family has been arrested? It's something like hundreds of
almost 400.
Oh.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I can't imagine there's a rule book that exactly says what you do and how you do it. So
right.
Well, John, we got a phone call in the middle of that interview, and I can't help but notice you did a change of costume. Care to explain what's happening here?
Well, since we're talking about the police,
yeah,
and not the Sting police and the Stuart Copeland police,
yeah,
the other police.
Okay.
I thought I would dress appropriately for the occasion.
Yeah, I remember you brought this out on, I think the first time maybe we spoke. Can you remind us all of what's going on there? And
well, this is the wrong agency. This is Essex, not Thames Valley. Essex is, I believe, is over by Heathrow.
Okay.
If I recall, but no, I did some work at one point. It was actually a project that I was on, and was in the Netherlands and also in the UK and also in several places in the USA. So that hat was part of the spoils of war.
Okay. I do have to ask, you know, you're telling us that
it's a helmet, by the way. Forgive me. It's a helmet. And lest anyone think it came from Walmart or something.
Fancy.
It's the real deal.
I see that.
Anyway, it was a gift.
Well, what I was saying is it's interesting to me that you seem to have knowledge of jails. You've talked about classified documents and having to go to the UK. Are you a spy? Is that what's happening here? Are you ready to talk about that?
Not right now. Not right now. No.
Damn it. I was hoping you had some inside information. This could really make this interview more fun.
Sorry.
If you don't mind, I'm going to transition to Harry and Meghan. And I just had some questions. Starting with, I mean, just in general terms, you know, all the outrage with the Andrew of it all, and people are so disgusted. And of course, there's huge pressure to remove him from the line of succession. You know, lots of talk of this. I believe it was 82% of the public last time they were polled are in favor of removing him. There's governments like Australia's government, you know, part of the Commonwealth, backing it. Talk to me in terms of Harry and Meghan. Do you think that the same level of zero tolerance is spilling over now? Obviously, they have not been accused of the things that Andrew's been accused of, but there's public outrage. So talk to me your thoughts on that, if you don't mind.
Well, let me just back up for a second. In talking about removing Andrew from the line of succession, that is an enormous undertaking, and an enormous undertaking. And someone said this morning, for instance, it's entirely possible that one of the smaller Commonwealth countries, and I think Jamaica was used as an example, well, they could decide they wanted to gum up the works, and they could say, well, we're not going to vote for this unless the UK government decides that they want to invest in our infrastructure and this, that, and the other. So there's that aspect of it. There's the time and energy in Parliament that would be required to do this. A lot of people that are saying, look, it's kind of a fool's errand to begin with, because the guy's never going to be, you know, the king unless something horrible happens, you know, unless another world war breaks out or something like that, and somebody does something that, you know, seriously damages the royal family. And in the event that that happened, we'd have a lot bigger problems to worry about to begin with. So I just throw that out there because I think it's an interesting perspective. But to your question about Harry and Meghan,
Mm-hmm.
I think you need to go up to kind of a 50,000-foot view.
Okay.
There was this article in People magazine that came out a couple days ago. Oh, Harry's frustrated that there are people making comparisons between him and his uncle Andrew, and he doesn't feel that those are fair.
Mm-hmm.
In some cases, I would point out, they probably would benefit Harry.
Mm-hmm.
Andrew was not only in a helicopter,
Mm-hmm.
I believe he actually was a pilot of a helicopter, something that Harry was a gunner. I've
Right.
never seen evidence that Harry actually has a pilot's license or flew the helicopter.
Right.
And there's been little bits of, you know, information dropped around here and there about how, well, he couldn't become a pilot because he couldn't do the math or something was wrong, or he didn't like having the flight instructor tell him what to do. And so they just said, okay, fine, we'll give you the next best job, which is just to sit there with a gun and fire it when you're told to fire it.
Mm-hmm.
Fair enough. As far as I'm aware, I think Andrew served 22 years in the British Navy.
Mm-hmm.
I believe Harry was in the British Army for 10 years.
Mhm.
So Andrew, I believe, has over twice the number of years of service. So in some ways, it would be to Harry's benefit to have him compared to his uncle. The
True.
point that I'm making, though, is, again, from a 50,000-foot view, I think the most important basis of comparing Harry and Andrew is that they are both pains in the neck.
Yes.
That's all you need to know. They
Mm-hmm.
are both, in my opinion, chaos agents. Harry and Meghan more directly agents of chaos,
Mm-hmm.
but Andrew and Fergie backhanded, sort of backdoor agents of chaos.
Mm-hmm.
But with all the other changes that we've talked about that are likely to occur in the British royal family, you know, the end of Never Complain, Never Explain, the end of, you know, oh, well, the spare and the second spare and the third spare, we're just going to expect them to go out and work on behalf of the family, and we'll give them a house to live in and a horse to ride and a Range Rover to drive around in and a
Right.
driver. I mean, I think those days are absolutely well and truly over with.
Mm-hmm.
I said to somebody the other day, and they laughed at me, and I said, no, I really genuinely mean this. I think Harry ought to figure out the nearest community college, wherever he is in Montecito, and sign himself up for plumbing classes or electrician classes,
Mm-hmm.
or something in or get himself enrolled in a school where he could drive a dump truck or a lorry, as it would be called in the UK. That's what he honestly is going to be reduced to, I think, when it's all said and done.
Mm-hmm.
The idea that he's going to go back to the UK potentially and involve himself in the activities of the royal family, I guarantee you, when William comes along, all of these peripheral people are going to just disappear.
Mm-hmm.
Eugenie and Beatrice and Harry and Meghan and anybody else that's out there, they're all going to disappear. And I think the best clue to that is the way in which William and Catherine are raising their own kids.
Mm-hmm.
They are clearly raising George to be a future king of the UK.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as Charlotte and Louis are concerned, I would not be a bit surprised if they haven't already been told, you guys are going to need to educate yourself. You're going to need to find a job, go out and work and be a normal British citizen, just like everybody else.
Sure.
I think that's really what it's going to come down to. So to the extent that Harry is worried about being lumped in with the, evil Uncle Andrew and so forth, it's like, listen, wake up.
Mm-hmm.
The handwriting is on the wall. There is
Right.
no way that you are coming back to the UK. There is no way, after what you've done
Right.
to your brother and your brother's wife, hello,
Yeah.
you can't be trusted
Mm-hmm.
based on what's already happened with, you took text messages and you published them in a book that the whole world read, and you've done nothing but complain. You've gone around, made a pest of yourself in the courts, suing this newspaper and that newspaper and all of this stuff. It's just, and I think this is where some of his unhappiness comes from, is that he just does not get it. The world is not accepting him the way that he needs to be accepted, and he can't deal with that.
Right.
I'll just point out as well, as an example of, and by the way, let me just point out, if you haven't paid attention, there's a terrible situation going on in Norway right now, where there's a 20-something member of the royal family in Norway who has allegedly done some really unsavory stuff.
Right.
And I think it's 22, 23, 24 counts of said unsavory stuff. You can Google it and read about it yourself if you're interested.
Right.
But you look at a person like that, and he, again, it's just throws a stink over all royal families. I get it. Harry would be the type of person that would say, well, I'm not part of the Norwegian royal family. I'm part of the British royal family. We're different. It's like, okay, that's fine.
Right.
Technically, yes. But again, these people exist at the pleasure of the citizens and the public. And if they don't like you, you're going to be left out in the cold.
Yeah.
By the way, the other thing I'll just add, I didn't even know there was a Dutch royal family for a long time until a Dutch friend of mine made a comment about it. There's a Dutch king and a Dutch queen. Do you know that the Dutch king, for many years, I think he may still be doing it, I'm not entirely sure, he's an airline pilot.
I didn't know that.
He flew for KLM, the Dutch airline. You can look it up, Google it. There are pictures of him in his captain's uniform, airline pilot uniform, standing next to a KLM plane. And apparently there were people that used to come up next to him. He would be walking through airports and through Schiphol in Amsterdam, and people would say, you look a lot like the king. Has anybody ever told you that before? So again, that gets back to my point about, like, there are limits to these things. We're not living 50 or 100 or 500 years ago.
Right.
And Harry hasn't figured that out yet. And Meghan hasn't figured that out yet.
Agree.
So I think they're both going to be in for a world of hurt. I really do.
I think so too. I just want to touch on a couple of things, and I didn't want to interrupt you while you're talking. But going back to the trade thing, I smiled like that, not because it's a bad idea. I actually think that's a good idea. But there is no way that Harry has any kind of work ethic it would take to be any kind of tradesperson, because those people are hard workers and dependent upon to make our homes run and stuff. They're, electricians and plumbers and all. There's just no way. And do you want to trust him with things like that? But I get what you're saying. He should educate himself. And have a backup plan.
And that's why I threw the thing in there about, he could drive a dump truck. He could drive a lorry. It's like, look, you can't just stop in the middle of the day and say, I'm tired. I want to go home. It's like, okay, the boss wants the truck, needs to be 50 miles down the road. Where have you been?
Exactly.
He could be a gamer. I understand he's very good with Xbox. Seriously, there are people they're out there. Not hard to find. There are people on YouTube that make a boatload of money as gamers on Xbox.
Yes, but I'm laughing because you're giving him so much credit. You have to have personality and you have to have a train of thought to do that. And I don't think he's capable of stuff like that.
You might be right.
I'm sorry, say that again. I didn't hear you. What?
You might be right.
Yeah. But there's that. I think I agree with you completely, honestly, on everything that you said in terms of they were already on thin ice. Even if this Andrew thing never came out, I think public perception and all that. I mean, everything you said, I agree. But I feel like now everything is going to be understandably under intense scrutiny. There's no way. So I guess my question that we'll never know the answer to, but I'm going to ask you anyway, do they have any even micro particle of awareness how screwed they are?
No. No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so.
Uh-huh.
And that's evident again in the whole again the People magazine article that I referenced. He doesn't like the comparisons. It's like the comparison does not matter. You're sunk. You,
Exactly.
I mean, you are dead in the water
Mhm.
as far as life as you know it right now.
Right.
Trading on your being a prince.
Right.
You remember in the after the nearly catastrophic car chase in New York,
Of course.
and there were these letters that were sent to the New York Police Department about the Duke
Yes.
feels, and it's like, are you kidding me? What an embarrassment!
Right. Exactly. We
What
don't
an
know how
embarrassment!
to feel.
I
Exactly.
mean, absolutely, positively, it is done. And that's, I mean, I'm not being facetious when I say that he needs to go learn a trade of some sort.
Mhm.
He needs to figure out a job that
Right.
he has the energy and the mental horsepower to do, because he's going to need it at
Right.
some point, especially if they get cut off from the royal family, even more so than they already are. And
Right.
who knows, there are all these reports that come and go about, oh, they've got a ton of money. He's got money from the Queen Mother and from Diana and from here and from there. And he wrote the book. And okay, that's great. If you're flying around in private jets to
Right.
the tune of $5,000 or $6,000 an hour, which is what the going rate is right now for a private jet, you're not going to be able to sustain that lifestyle in the absence of some very serious inward cash flow.
Right.
By the way, I don't know if you saw it. I had to laugh the other day, again, in the context of Harry and Meghan. There's a video out on YouTube. Somebody interviewed just random celebrities
Mhm.
that showed up at the Super Bowl, which was the NFL Super Bowl back on February 8th. And they asked them, there's always that sort of shoot that all the celebrities walk through, kind of a red carpet type of thing. And there was a reporter there that started asking these people, when was the last time you flew commercial?
Oh.
And without exception, they all said they fly commercial all the time. One guy said, I flew commercial to get here. I mean, these are, there's one guy, I can't remember his name. He has kind of blonde, spiky hair. I think he's a TV chef. I think he said, I flew here on
Harry?
Southwest, which is the equivalent of, Ryanair in the UK, or
Mhm.
EasyJet. One guy said, oh, I fly commercial all the time. I fly 3 or 4 flights a week, and I always fly commercial. And I just heard that, and I thought, man, wouldn't that be something for Harry and Meghan to see? It's like the whole rest of the world. These people have a lot of money.
Right.
These are celebrities,
Mhm.
and they don't think twice about getting on a commercial airplane.
Right.
What's the big deal?
I don't know.
So, made me laugh.
As we talk about Harry and Meghan, this is off the cuff. I'm just thinking about, I feel like Meghan is going to write a book at some point, and I'm wondering if this will somehow, I don't know, overall impact that, if this is going to mess with her future earning potential or writing those coattails. What are your thoughts on, I don't know, Meghan and future books? And I know we're speculating. I just wonder, what are your thoughts
I
on that?
think Meghan and Fergie will both write books.
You do. I
I
didn't think
do.
about Fergie. Talk to me about that. I'm pure speculation. What if you're predicting the future? What do you think? What will when and what will they be about?
I think Fergie will dish whatever dirt she has in her head about the British royal family.
Do you think it'll be sooner than later, or you think it'll be after some dust settles?
I suspect it could be sooner rather than later, because I'm sure she is. I mean, she's already feeling the effects of having been ejected from the Royal Lodge where she was living. I mean, that's one of the big questions hanging out there: is where's Fergie going to live?
Right.
I mean, the speculation over the
As
last
she
couple.
spends $17,000 a day on her lodging.
Right. Well, apparently that may have been a gift. That may have been an in-kind, thing to raise the profile of wherever she was.
Gotcha.
Obviously, it didn't work for me because I can't recall where she was. Somewhere in Switzerland, I think.
I
Anyway,
thought you meant because you weren't going to fly over there immediately after we're done talking to go stay
well,
there.
we could all use a little spa day once in a while, So
Yes. I want to know what they do for $17,000 a day.
Right.
I
It's like
better look like a
how
newborn.
high can you put the thread count on the sheets for $17,000? You know what I mean?
I don't even like sheets, so I want some money back. But like, can I look like a newborn baby? How does this work? Like, can they
Right.
guarantee me to live to 150?
I don't get it. I don't get it. But
Please.
anyway,
Mhm.
I think she and Meghan will both write books.
Okay.
Um, I think Fergie will be the first one to say that, hey, I need to continue my lifestyle and I need the cash to do it. And so I'm going to go out there and do it. Do I think she will take the proceeds from a book and use the proceeds in a way that will allow her to slide for 5, 10, 15, 20 years? No, absolutely not. I think she will look at it as, okay, I'm going to get this bag of money
Mhm.
and that's going to get me to tomorrow, or it's going to get me to 6 months from now. And then I'll come up with some other endeavor.
Mhm.
And I think that kind of a mindset was evident in, I mean, you remember, at one point she was caught on tape selling access to Andrew, um, basically a tit for tat type of an arrangement. And she was caught on tape doing that. And then she did Weight Watchers for a while, which a lot of people thought was kind of unsavory. So I think she's a grinder and a scraper, and call it a grifter if you want to, but that's just the way that she operates, I think.
Sure. Yeah.
And so I think she's going to look for every single opportunity she can. I think the same thing is true with Meghan. Nobody knows for sure. There's a lot of speculation that As Ever Products and As Ever as a brand has effectively collapsed. Although I did hear this morning that supposedly there's going to be an international rollout of these products. And, I'll believe that when I see it.
Sure. Uh-huh.
But, um, I just don't see a solid income stream in Meghan's future at all. The
Mm-mm.
only thing that I think will save her as far as accumulating the wealth that she would like to have is a replacement husband.
Right.
I think that if she saw the writing on the wall and realized that nothing good was going to come of Harry,
Mhm.
that she would go out and find herself a new spouse.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I don't have much else to say besides that, but I
That's
feel pretty strongly,
whose books could
especially
be
especially if she gets cut off, she and Harry get cut off from the British royal family. They get
Mhm.
their titles pulled. If Archie and Lilibet get their titles pulled,
Mhm.
she's going to say, "Fine, all bets are off."
Yeah.
Scorched earth. I'm going to write a book. Now,
More
would
scourge.
anybody even read the book?
Yeah. Right.
I don't know.
Right.
I think it was one thing to read Harry's book,
Mhm.
and look where that got him.
I think it would be a flash in the pan situation where she might get some quick um
Yep.
payoff, but then long term, what do you have? You can't be I mean, just like Harry, you can't be trusted. You put it in writing so people can argue points that you've made. I mean, there's just so many downsides, but I'm not trying to be contrarian. I agree with you. I think it'll be a book. And I've said before, I actually think Meghan will write two books. I think she'll write one while she's with Harry, and then it's time to move on. And these are the bad things that Harry allegedly did while we were together kind of book, I think.
Oh, interesting.
I just think that's just my
Interesting.
opinion. All right, guys, that's going to do it for me. I really hope you enjoyed this part of the sit down with John. He's so thoughtful in the way he takes his time to answer our questions, to dive into all this stuff, to give his thoughts and opinions. It just means the world to me. So, the way we can help him out is by leaving him those very kind comments. Thank you so much for that. And let him know how much we appreciate him. And by following him on Instagram. He's Witherspoon DC on Instagram. That's going to do it for me. And I can't wait for you to see the next part of the sit down with John Witherspoon. Thank you guys so much and have the best day. Bye bye.